Call to order this regular meeting of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris this Wednesday, January 18th, 2023. The time is now 7:02 p.m. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Grayzel?
Here.
Ms. Guariglia? Is she on?
Is she there?
I don't see her.
We will work on getting Mrs. Guariglia on.
Mr. Ravitz?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh,
Thank
there
you.
she is. Mr. Ravitz?
Yes, here.
Ms. Wilson?
Here.
Mayor Gyorfy?
Here. If everyone would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First up on our agenda is approval of the minutes, which will be for the November Township Committee meeting. Do we have minutes? Oh, it'll be December 21st Township Committee meeting. May I have a first and a second?
So moved.
I will second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I need to abstain, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Could you please designate Mr.
Does that
Grayzel as
include the
abstaining?
change that we talked about?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, next on the agenda are proclamations. We have two proclamations for this evening. One is for recognizing Martin Luther King Jr. Day, as well as School Board Recognition Month. And I know I was privileged to join many of the Township Committee members on Monday at Calvary Baptist Church for the Martin Luther King Observance Committee's observances for Martin Luther King Day. And so this year, as we always do, we're passing a proclamation recognizing the importance of Martin Luther King Day. But I just wanted to comment personally that the services on Monday were, it was great to be back in person. I know it's been a while since we have been back in person for the Observance Committee's recognition. And there were a tremendous amount of great speakers, including a guest speaker, pastor from Newark, but also some students too. And to me, it was just so meaningful because in Morris Township, one of the founders is actually Dr. Felicia Jameson, who's a township resident and has been a long time township resident. And, you know, during the services, we talked about how inspirational Dr. King was and how he was a disruptor. And to me, I think also Dr. Jameson in Morris Township is inspirational to many throughout our community, not just now, but the decades she's been here as a leader. She's been a part of a lot of Morris Township's history. I know we recognized her a few years ago when Mr. Grayzel recognized her. So to me, that just stood out, and it was a pleasure to be with her on Monday as well. So I know members of the committee might have comments too on Monday services, but I just wanted to note that, have a local connection there for the observances. I did just want to recognize too our school board members for Morris Township. Last year we recognized School Board Recognition Month, and we're doing that again. Like us, our school board members are volunteers. They're township residents. They put their hearts and souls into their work. And I did just want to recognize all of their contributions to our school district. We have School Board President Melissa Spiota, who's a township resident, as well as Vice President Katie Cole. We also have school board members Linda Murphy, Susan Pedalino, and Alan Smith, who are township residents. They represent Morris Township on the school board. So we wanted to recognize all of their contributions to the school district. If any other members of the committee would like to say a few words or hold it to your commentary, feel free. But want to appreciate all their work. And I know last year we visited their school board meeting, and we'll certainly reach out and recognize them this year as well. Moving next on our agenda is public comment and inquiry. So last year at this meeting, we announced a change to our public comment inquiry, which the first one would be agenda items only. This year we are removing that. So it will just be general public commentary for the first public comment period, just as we have the second public comment as general public commentary. So with that, there are currently 5 members of the public who are with us virtually on Zoom. We'll open the first public comment portion. We'll take comments from in-person attendees first, then switch to Zoom. If you're on Zoom and wish to comment, please raise your virtual hand. Please state your name and address for the record before speaking. Please note that comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. If you have any questions you'd like answered, your remaining time will be yielded back for this purpose. So may I please have a motion to open the first public comment period?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Diane Holland, 26 Northbridge Place. To tag on to your comment about school board and recognizing it, I don't know if anybody has this access, but I just received a text today that the school district is notifying the community that COVID-19 response team invites you for a free vaccination clinic from noon to 5 on January 19th, February 2nd, February 23rd, March 28th at 200 South Street, 4th floor. And they're also distributing testing kits. So if we're wondering, I don't know whether you were aware of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I wanted to say thank you for the password. I hope it's for the Township network. I hope it stays prominent for a long time to come. Thank you for moving opening comments. I'm glad this is a new year, a new philosophy. A question. The parking lot, especially the front section, which has the slots for veterans, those stripes really could use repainting. Is there any plan for that?
It was in the 2022 budget, but it came in overpriced and we didn't have the funds. So we're going to hopefully reappropriate the funds for that, for this parking lot and the 2 parking lots across the street for resealing the parking lots and then restriping them.
Okay. Thank you for that. And it's been maybe a 3 or 4 year tradition to have a holiday light competition, which has always been a lot of fun. And I saw it advertised, announced this year and how to go about enrolling, but I never saw any announcement about the winners were chosen and this is where you can go to find out who they are. Was that continued or was that how
Yes.
did I miss it?
It went up on Facebook. I think
Well,
our
if you don't
website
use
too,
Facebook,
and our website too. And then did Parks and Rec send out an email on Community Pass as well? So I know we did get questions. It did come a little later than last year, but it did get posted.
but not in the same method that it was announced.
No,
We can check on that. I think it was, but we can double check. for
Would
sure.
you please?
Yeah.
Because I missed it and that's possible, but so if you would look into that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any members of the public who are joining us virtually wishing to speak, please raise your hands on Zoom. Seeing none, is there a motion to close the first public comment period?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next on the agenda are resolutions. We have 35 resolutions this evening. I will be abstaining from resolution 48-23 as it's related to the fire department. And I'll request that Deputy Mayor Ravitz handle that vote separately. I also know that we will have to make minor adjustments to the language on resolution 36-23. And Mr. Cantor, if you just want to provide a brief overview on that change.
Sure, Mayor. Resolution 36-23 in the second whereas clause, there's a typographical error starting with the words the proposed connection fee will be removed up until the word in. So Daniel Kelly possessed the knowledge, skills, and expertise to perform the necessary analysis relative to a lawsuit captioned. So we're getting rid of the language in there. It's a typographical error.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I also wanted to request 2 resolutions be pulled for discussion before they're voted on. One is, I'm trying to find the one with, there it is, 18-23 and 27-23. If we could pull those aside, I'd appreciate it.
Which is the second one?
18 and 27.
Okay. Any other members of the committee wishing to pull resolutions for a separate vote. Right now I have 18-23, 27-23, and 48-23 to be voted on separately. Hearing none.
I'll move that we vote on bonk on 1423 through 1723, 1923 through 2623, and 2823 through 4723. Does that properly cover it?
As amended.
As amended. As amended.
Yes, Committeeman.
How's that? And I will second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And clerk, may I please have a roll call vote on resolutions? Let's see how well I do this. 14-23 to 17-23, 19-23 to 26-23, and 28-23 to 47-23.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia,
yes,
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. Okay, now may I have a motion to approve 18-23, and you can provide your comment.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Grayzel?
Thank you. So this is a 5-year appointment to the water company, SMC MUA. And I know Mr. Schumer moved out of town several years ago. And I have nothing against Mr. Schumer or his expertise, but I feel that it's important that somebody local be representing us on the water authority, somebody that has more, maybe lack of a better term, skin in the game as a local resident to ensure water quality. Mr. Schumer lives, where does he live, in Hunterdon County now?
That's correct.
Yeah. So I wanted to recommend that we consider local applicants to SMUCA as opposed to somebody who lives not even in the county. And I think it's in the best interests of the water company to have somebody local doing oversight for us.
May I speak?
Yes.
The water company recommended that Mr. Schumer be appointed. He's a very valuable member of the utility. He is always advocating for the Township of Morris. He certainly has the engineering background to support that. And if Mr. Schumer is appointed by the governing body here, he will be the chair of the board for 2023.
I'll to respond to, and I think it's a genuine concern. I will say we do have boards where we do have folks from out of town serving for the best interest of township residents. I think moving forward, certainly the township committee should, keep Mr. Schumer and our other representative closely involved. But I think honestly, his background of the water system and how it functions as a utility is an asset for us. And certainly it would be beneficial to have someone who's still residing in the township. However, it is going to be very difficult for us to find someone as qualified as he is to serve on that board as chair and representing our interests as a township, which is my opinion. But I appreciate your opinion too.
I think we probably have plenty of scientists in Morris Township that, what kind of background does he have?
He has an engineering background. He's a naval graduate. He teaches at NJIT. Longtime Morris Township resident before he moved downsized a few years ago, but he's still very active with his commitment to the water authority's commitment to Morris Township. And one of the things that is beneficial is having somebody with an engineering background who has the time and to commit to the duties and responsibilities to the water utility.
Okay.
Any other comments from members of the committee?
I'll just say I agree with Mr. Grayzel that it's beneficial for members to live in the township, but I do think this is kind of an exceptional circumstance, and his background and his interest and commitment to serving on this board, I think is a real asset to the board.
I'm going to echo what Ms. Wilson said. I agree with you, Jeff, but I think these are extraordinary circumstances. And at this point in time, I think that this is a good move for the township.
And Tim, one more question. How many terms has he served already?
I believe this would be his
Third?
second term, I think.
It's 5-year terms.
They're
I think
5-year
it's
terms by
probably a
state
second.
statute, so I believe
Yeah.
it's his second. I can double check, but yeah, it's his second term.
Okay. And you mentioned that the chair is a rotating?
It's
is
a
it
rotating
chair?
position, yes.
From
Similar
year-
to this governing body, they rotate from year to year. And Mr. Schumer would be the chair for this year for the water utility.
And when is our other position coming up? We have two positions.
I believe we appointed him 2 years ago, so probably in 3 years, Mr. Baldessari. And he's been on
He's a long
a long time.
A long time, yeah.
Yeah.
Very good,
And
thank you.
I believe Mr. Baldessari has spoke highly of Mr. Schumer as other members of the Water
Right.
Utility
Oh,
Board.
I have no doubt about Mr. Schumer's abilities. I'm not questioning that whatsoever. I just thought it would be in the best interest to have somebody local. But I'm not going to hold it up. My concern is noted for the record, and we can move on.
Mayor
Thank you.
Gyorfy, Mayor Gyorfy. I just wanted to say too that I think Mr. Schumer at this time, that's what we should do. But even Jeff, maybe, for future reference, do some due diligence about who is in the township that might have experience for future appointments to this position.
Very good.
Thank you, Committeewoman Guariglia. With that, Madam Clerk, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. May I now have a motion to approve Resolution 27-23?
So moved.
Is there a second? I will second that. Mr. Grayzel.
Very good. So I know that in 2021, we did not have a redevelopment council. Did we have one of record last year?
Yes, we did.
And did we have any redevelopment projects last year?
No, sir.
And do we have any redevelopment projects on the coming this year that we know of?
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
So I'm not sure why we need to make an appointment when there's nothing pending.
We need that in case we get any applications, and we have that, and also with the pay to play that the Township Committee did for the redevelopment council. We'll need that in play prior to any applications being received.
I will also add that I do believe I believe that I participated in the interview for Mr. Lair, which I believe was last year, correct? And
Yes, ma'am.
that was a recommendation of the Personnel Committee.
That is correct.
Any further comments from members of the committee?
I just want to say that I also agree with this appointment, having somebody on record as our counsel in case something comes up, as Mr. Quinn had mentioned, is to our benefits. And it won't cost us anything if nothing does come up. So it's nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Thank you. Any further commentary? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Grayzel,
No.
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. Now I'll turn it over to Deputy Mayor Ravitz.
Thank you, Mayor. May I have a motion to approve resolution number 4823?
Second.
Donna seconded.
Second,
I think she seconded before there was a motion, though.
any
Oh, I'm
discussion?
I'm sorry.
Who seconded?
Donna,
Ms. Guariglia.
any discussion? Hearing none, then Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call for the resolution number 48-23?
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
and Mayor Gyorfy's
Abstain.
abstaining.
Thank you.
He's actually not abstaining, he's recusing himself.
I'm recusing myself.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor.
Fine distinction.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have our consent calendar. There's 4 items on the consent calendar this evening. May I please have a motion to approve the 4 items on the calendar?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consideration of monthly reports. We have received reports from the library, tax collector, and finance departments for December 2022. May I please have a motion to approve these monthly reports?
So moved. Second.
Is there a
Second.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Claims for payment. The total amount of bills and vouchers for this meeting is $8,961,654.76. We are also, as a reminder, the tax collector for the school district, the library, and the county of Morris. May I please have a motion to approve the list of bills and vouchers?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. At this time, we will move to our standing committee reports and our commentary from the Township Committee. I'll start off first with Committeewoman Guariglia, since she's remote. Donna, if you'd like to go first, the floor
Thanks.
is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Gyorfy. My remarks will be pretty short. First of all, on things that are happening within the township. For the reorg meeting, we now started up with all our committees. It's been nice to see all the new leadership and the volunteers that have stepped up to serve. As far as my other reports, we've been lucky so far to have a mild winter, so that's all going well. We continue to work on the budget. And other than that, for me, things are going well. So should you want me to do my commentary, which is also pretty short?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. So just wanted to say again, because I think at the reorg meeting, I spoke a lot about what I thought would, for the coming year, everything that we should be doing, but also wanted to say on Martin Luther King, the observance that we did attend. I thought Reverend David Jefferson Sr. from Newark, who came up, did an outstanding job. And I think one of the things that we all have to remember, as he spoke about memorializing and celebrating all the good work that so many people do, but oftentimes too, there's not a lot of change. So even for us in the township, as we continue to work, we need to remember that there are areas and parts of the township that we have to continue to focus on and make sure that we're doing all we can for all the residents of the township. So it's even nice to see some of the changes tonight that were put back in place. So other than that, I think, again, just excited for this year and really looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thank you, Committeewoman Guariglia. Committeeman Grayzel, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So early in the year, again, there's not much to report so far. The Sewer Standing Committee had their first budget meeting. The Police Standing Committee and the Buildings and Grounds, right, Tim, are meeting this Friday for our budgeting session. So sewer went very well. We're in good shape there. So that's all I really, I also want to say that I participated in the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting. I want to congratulate Jim Hunt for stepping forward to be chair of the Transportation Advisory Committee this year. And before this meeting, we had our Board of Health meeting, and I want to thank Dr. Katz for stepping forward to be the president of our Board of Health. And just to remind all our residents that while you mostly see the governing body up here every month having our meetings, there's a lot of other meetings that go on behind the scenes that are mostly manned by volunteers, or most, I should say, manned and womaned by volunteers. And we have such a great community, and we thrive because of the quality of the volunteers and the people who put in the time to make our community the place that it is. So I just wanted to thank all the volunteers who have stepped forward on all the boards and committees that we've had. Thank you for your commitment to the town. Thank you for volunteering your time for this calendar year. And I look forward to working with everybody on those committees that I'm on. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Grayzel. Deputy Mayor Wilson, would you like to go next?
Sure, thank you. So we have changed our standing committee assignments this year, and I will not be serving on TAC this year, which is a committee that's been very near and dear to me for the last couple of years. But I will be working on one of the subcommittees that works with TAC, which is, this is part of my work on Sustainable Jersey, and it's the Complete Streets Committee. Complete Streets is all about making transportation in your town as safe and convenient as possible for everybody, all ages, all modes of transportation. And while we do in Morris Township have many practices in place that support complete streets, we do not have a formal written complete streets policy. So that's the work of this subcommittee, and it's a big job. It has met many times, it's done a lot of work, and our goal is to work together with our professionals this year to come up with a written complete streets policy for our town. I also work on our Environment Standing Committee, and our Environmental Commission held its first meeting last Thursday. They spent the better part of the time talking about their goals for the year, which are really impressive. And I just wanted to highlight a few of their outreach goals. One that I think is very interesting is they're creating a plan for doing outreach on the so-called Do Not Plant resolution that we passed last year. Maybe you remember this. The point of the resolution is to encourage, not require, but encourage everybody in our community not to plant invasives and to plant natives instead. We're having a lot of success at the planning boards, encouraging applicants to voluntarily comply with this resolution. And the plan in place for the Environmental Commission this year, we're going to do intentional outreach with all of the homeowners associations in our town, which they're responsible for, some of the biggest planting that occurs across our town. So I commend the EC for undertaking this, and I look forward to, I'm going to be working on it myself. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. This also, the Do Not Plant initiative aligns perfectly with the Great Swamp. Does a plant sale coming up in early April, and there's a lot of outreach that our EC does to promote the Great Swamp plant sale. So look for information there. If you're not signed up already, I encourage everyone to sign up for the newsletter that our Environmental Commission produces. It's fantastic and it's very informative. I also wanted to say a quick word about our plans for working with Sustainable Jersey for 2023. We do plan to continue our actions on many different fronts. Some examples include public engagement in planning and zoning, recycling, complete streets, make your town EV friendly, among several others. And while we are hoping to accomplish the next level of certification, which is silver, and which requires 350 points, but even if we don't make it, we're going to be close. We may or may not cross that line, but the actions we have planned are beneficial on their own. And I really appreciate the best practice guidance we get from doing this work in accordance with the standards that Sustainable Jersey lays out. Another benefit of our involvement with Sustainable Jersey is that it opens us up for grant possibilities. So some of them, we are in the process, or two members of EC are in the process of applying for a small grant. It's not big money. It's only $2,000. It's nothing like what we get from the road reconstruction projects, for example. But these grants do provide us with opportunities that we would not otherwise have. The grant they're applying for, this current one is we're calling it the Tool Chest Grant. It's to get the materials and equipment that's needed for all the outreach that's done at the Fall Festival, at the farmers market, the tent, the banners, the table skirts, the signs. So these are things that will sort of notch up the Environmental Commission's ability to do outreach, and it'll be appreciated. And it's not something that the township would have in its budget in a particularly difficult year. So the message here is that the work matters, and it does. And so we'll see if they get funded. I'm pretty optimistic that they will. I also wanted to highlight our first meeting of the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, which we call CCAC, is coming up next Monday, 3 to 4:30. We found out some exciting news today that the township has gotten some grant money that may open up a possibility for working with a coordinator who may have time to do some work with our seniors. And a big part of the goal for 23, the needs survey is coming out any day now that they completed last year. And in the year ahead, they're going to be doing what I call focus groups that are similar to what our Economic Development Committee did last year. They were really helpful in engaging people, getting ideas, promoting two-way communication. And the whole idea here is to identify the needs and make recommendations for meeting them. And then I did want to also comment on the MLK observance activities. I'd like to thank our local MLK Observance Committee. They did a great job, as they have for the last 53 years. I didn't go to all of those, but they do a great job every year, creating a very moving tribute to Martin Luther King. One of the speakers this year affectionately described the mission as to motivate, educate, and inspirate. I like that. That definition, or that mission, has definitely been accomplished for me. What stands out to me every year, Martin Luther King was a man of God, but he was also a man of worldly action. And I find his example of living your life in ways that merge the faith world with the real world to be really deep and inspiring. And like I said, variations on this theme come across every year. This year was no exception. And I'm very grateful and thankful to our local MLK Observance Committee for making this tribute possible every year and for doing such a wonderful job in accomplishing their mission. And then just finally, I'd like to thank and congratulate our school board members. I believe last year was the first year our state designated a month for school board recognition. It's very well deserved. Our school board members work very hard. They do a great job. And I commend them for the time and skill and dedication they bring to their work. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Wilson. Deputy Mayor Ravitz.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually do have quite a number of standing committee updates. So let me just move right on to that. On the legislation committee, I just want to highlight a couple, actually one of the resolutions that we just passed tonight, resolution number 19-23. We're proud to offer our support for the passage of the New Jersey bipartisan bills S3405 and A5081, mandating access for volunteer firefighters for periodic cancer screening exams, and Bill S296 and A1278, mandating access for career firefighters for cancer screening exams. I think that that's something that we can all get behind, especially when it involves our first responders. On Parks and Rec, our pickleball membership is off to a blistering start. We have about 300 requested memberships so far, of which about 90% of those are from township residents. Remember that residents get a free guest badge with every $25 badge purchased. You can sign up using your community pass on the Parks and Rec webpage. There will be frequent spot checks to ensure that players comply with the new badge policy. With regard to the Collinsville Park Tucker Field renovations, stakeholder meetings begin later this month. We did get back about 43 surveys from our mailed surveys. It's not a huge return, but for those people who were engaged enough to respond, I do thank you, and we all thank you. We are anticipating a public unveiling of the proposed concept by late winter or early springs. So stay tuned for that. The public will be encouraged to attend and comment on the proposed renovation plan. On the fire committee, on Monday, this past Monday, the 16th, Morris Township received delivery of our newest fire apparatus. For those who know about fire apparatus, it's an E1 HP 75 Quint ladder truck. Ooh, but it's I've seen the pictures. It's a beautiful truck. Firefighter training on that truck begins next week, and there'll be a public unveiling, which the fire department calls a wet down plan. So we'll keep you posted on a date, and it'll be a fun event for our residents of the township. And also, finally, congrats to firefighter Danielle Biz on her promotion to lieutenant. And for my commentary tonight, I just bid everybody good evening and thank you for your participation in our local community government. National politics may get all the spotlight, but it's what we do here locally that has the biggest economic and quality of life impact on our lives. I just want to touch on a couple of things this evening. One is the COVID-19. The XBB 1.5 variant is the most virulent variant yet. It's really, really contagious, but there's some good news. The best way to minimize the impact is to be up to date on your vaccinations and boosters. The current booster is very effective against the Omicron variation. It doesn't mean you won't get Omicron, but it will mitigate its symptoms of it. So, kudos to Morris Township, who has actually an incredible vaccination rate for the state. And then I will move on. Earlier this week, my colleagues and I attended the Interfaith Martin Luther King Remembrance Day celebration at the Calvary Baptist Church in Morristown. It was truly a glorious event. Speaker after speaker called on us to act, especially for economic justice. Economic justice these days has kind of morphed into income inequality. We're blessed to live in such a richly diverse community, but with that diversity, many of the problems that Dr. King spoke of 60 years ago still exist. Income inequality, which has racism as its very core, must be addressed. Many of society's ills can be traced directly to income inequality. Everything from teen pregnancy to food insecurity, to crime, to gun violence, to healthcare, to education, to life expectancy, to impoverished neighborhoods, to pride and trust in government are all directly attributable to income inequality. The essence of the word race is tribe, or people of a common descent. Racism, as we know it today, was created in colonial America as a way to divide European indentured servants from slaves who had a common master by culture or tribe, in order to prevent a joint uprising. People who typically suffer the same problems tend to unite to fight against these shared injustices. The racism and divisiveness we experience today is a product of exactly the same thinking. The time is always now to lift each other up so that we as a people who have more in common than should ever divide us, we as a nation can prosper to the fullest realization of the American promise and the American dream. Of all the prophetic words that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote or spoke, two quotes in particular resonate with me, words that I'd like to think that I live my life by. The first were spoken in Selma, Alabama on March 8, 1965, the day after the infamous Bloody Sunday Civil Rights March on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Quote, "A man dies when he refuses to stand up for that which is right. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for justice. A man dies when he refuses to take a stand for that which is true." The other quote is, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." And that's from the Steeler Lecture delivered in November of 1967. And as always, I like to end my commentary with the following. Let's not marginalize or demonize the people who have less political or economic power as some of us might now enjoy. Rather, let's face up and stand up to those who profit from our division. Amplifying misinformation, hateful or violent rhetoric is not part of any civil discourse. And lastly, let's remember that as you go about your business each and every day, to just be kind to yourself, kind to others, because kindness has a ripple effect. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Ravitz. For my standing committee reports, like everyone, we're prepping for what our priorities are for this year. For Communications Standing Committee, I'll be working with Deputy Mayor Wilson on our communications priorities for 2023. One thing I did want to note, as we discussed earlier this week, is the return to our previous office hours setup, the one we had prior to COVID, where we'll have open office hours for a 2-hour period each month here in person, and we'll make sure we have a virtual capability for that as well for folks who don't want to come here in person. So we'll be putting that information out. We'll be advertising it so we get to try to boost our turnout rate. It's a great opportunity for residents to sit with our township committee members one-on-one to talk about issues that are important to them. We rotate the participants in that each month. So there'll be 2 members of the committee each month.
What you and I have
Everything about
talked about
Tuesday.
is second Tuesdays,
Tuesday.
6 to 8 p.m. I'm not sure we've
So-
talked with everyone about that.
Yeah.
So we need to offline firm up the date and the time.
Yep. So we'll be firming that up and make sure it's consistent across the board, so residents have a better idea of when to come and speak with us. So more to come on that. Deputy Mayor Ravitz talked about Collinsville and Tucker Field reconstruction project, which I'm excited to be part of as part of the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee as well. But I did want to note too, last month we talked about our optimism to receive funding through the federal government omnibus appropriations bill for 2023. Our earmark was included in that bill. We will be receiving $500,000 for the Collinsville reconstruction project, thanks to the efforts of Congresswoman Cheryl. Thank you, Mr. Quinn, for helping with that application too for the Appropriations Committee. I believe we actually just received the instructions on how or what to expect to receive the funding from the Congresswoman's office today. So this is a big boost. This will add another $500,000 of federal dollars going into the Collinsville reconstruction project. So $1 million of federal dollars will be invested in Collinsville. And we're also applying for another $100,000 through the state of New Jersey through community projects or community recreation grant program.
It's through the DCA Local Recreation Improvement Grant. Going through its final stage now. It's due on Friday. It'll be submitted along with the resolution that was adopted by the governing body tonight.
Thank you. So we are going to make a substantial investment in Collinsville, and we are going to do everything we can to get help with that funding. So it's great to see our tax dollars returning here in Morris Township. For the Finance Committee, Committeewoman Guariglia and I will be working hard going through every line item in the budget. So we have plenty of meetings coming up on that, and we'll be providing more information. As discussed in the past few months, this is a very difficult financial year with significant increases in costs pretty much across the board. Looking at over $1 million in expenses we did not have last year just because of the increase of costs of insurance, pensions, prescription drug coverage, et cetera. So we have our work cut out for us, but fortunately we have a very capable administrator and chief financial officer who will help us through. And we have great department heads who understand the situation we're in, and we're going to do our best to produce a budget that's palatable this year. So we'll be in touch on that. Lastly, just to echo the comments already said about the Martin Luther King Day observance, it was a powerful program to be a part of. I did want to highlight too the inspirational words of the high school students, particularly. I was proud to see some Morristown High School students at the podium and speaking as a high school Morristown High alum. It was, made me feel, what was I doing back in high school? Because those students were really impressive and they have a lot going for them. We also heard from the students who received their scholarship. They over 10, I think 10 students last year received a scholarship. So they do a tremendous job. We're so appreciative of being invited to participate and always encourage the public to participate in future years. So with that, that is it for my commentary. So I will see if there's a motion to open the first or the second commentary period. We have 8 members of the public with us on Zoom. And we have some members of the public here with us in the meeting room. So is there a motion to open the second public
So
comment?
moved.
Is there a
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so if you're virtual, please raise your hand. If you're in person, come on up. Same rules as before. I think we know.
Diane Holland, 26 Northridge Place. The Collinsville playground, that's been a thorn for a long time. Is that still the same project that never quite gets done because now it's called Collinsville Turner or something?
Tuckerfield.
Tuckerfield. I mean, I remember Committeeman Ravitz talking about it's ready, it's going to be opened. I may have missed that, but why has it been renamed? Why is more money going into it?
So it's not renamed, it's 2 parks. There's the Collinsville Playground, and then down the street is Tucker Field where that ball field is. And so last year, in our budget, we funded the hiring of a park planning consultant. And last year we had our first neighborhood meeting at the playground to facilitate ideas and suggestions from the neighborhood to come out, talk to us about what they want to see the playground to be for the next 10 years, not just the next 5 years. And so with that, the consultants have then created a survey, which was mailed out to the residents in November, which we received, Mr. Ravitz said, about 43 recipients for the survey. And next is shareholder meetings. So we're meeting with stakeholder groups, groups like the Collinsville Civic Association, some of the churches, the Unity Charter School, to see what they want in a park, followed by another public meeting on the proposal from the consultant. So I would say no, this is not the same as before. Like there was the playground itself, which was the installation of equipment that happened right before COVID. This is different because this is $1 million that we're guaranteeing for this project because it's federal dollars. And then it's going to be up to the Township Committee to discuss how much further we're going to fund this project. But the intent of putting $500,000 in the last year's budget for this was that it would be shovel ready as soon as possible. So with the federal funding through the omnibus, that'll be another 500. So we have $1 million sitting there, and we have we want to make sure this work starts as soon as possible. So that's why we're involving so many people, because we want to make sure we get it right, because it's a significant investment. Yeah, Mr. Ravitz.
If I may, just kind of add to that, because that was an excellent explanation. When I first looked at the Collinsville Park, and there were some features that were promised to the residents that didn't get put in. The park was, in my estimation, in mostly a dilapidated condition. So rather than, fixing things here or there, or delivering a pavilion or a swing set or whatnot, it was the best thing to just start from scratch. We did know that we were going to have some money from the federal government. The fact that we got an additional $600,000 really was just icing on the cake. The project would have gone forward regardless of that additional money, but it felt it better to just take the 2 parks, Tucker Field, which wasn't really utilized that much, and combine them into one project and just totally start from scratch, engage the residents, find out what features that they were looking for. And we did that very successfully. And as the mayor said, we have a parks planner that's going to be unveiling, based on conversations we've had with residents and feedback from residents and stakeholders, an unveiling later on this winter or early spring that will be, we hope to hear from residents on whether we hit the mark or not. So it is absolutely not the same projects that we've been stringing along year after year for a long time.
But those projects that have been strung along for multiple years, those were considered closed. Is that correct?
No, they're not necessarily. We just stopped.
They were
They was-
completed.
Some were
The
complete.
playground equipment was completed. Yes. the playground
What
equipment
wasn't, there was a
installed.
pavilion. I think there's some additional shade that hadn't gone in yet. But now we decided to just stop and start from scratch. Have a whole new park. It's going to be really a magnet kind of park for all the residents, not just of Collinsville, but across the street. I mean, it's going to be a beautiful park. And, you know, I'm
Long overdue, I think.
thankfully, Mikey Sherrill came through with, you know, about $1.1 million, and we're looking for another 100,000.
Yeah, we want this to be shovel ready as soon as possible. And now that we have federal funding, we can only use that funding for this project. We can't take the community project funding to use for anything else. So
Okay. Have we updated any other parks in the interim that where perhaps the original Collinsville project could have, am I over my 5 minutes? Okay. But you can,
keep asking.
where did the town spend money on other projects where Collinsville wasn't completed? In other words, did other projects come along and Collinsville could have been completed, but maybe not to the satisfaction?
I think there's general maintenance projects that happen in their queue for Parks and Rec. I wouldn't say there was anything in terms of substantial investments. It was mostly maintenance projects that came up. I know there has been planned projects on Lake Valley Road for Baker Farm, but that has not been worked on yet. So right now, our number one priority is the Collinsville Playground Soccer Field reconstruction.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further comments in person, I see Mr. Goldberg with his hands raised, and I will recognize you, Mr. Goldberg, for 5 minutes.
Hi, good evening. Am I audible?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for this meeting tonight. Thanks for your time. Just a couple of quick questions on, is there any update at all on the acreage up by Con Road crossing? There's been some talk about a field up there. It's sort of just laying fallow. Is there a horizon on that for developing that or planning to build that out?
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. Can you just state your address and your full name for the record,
Sure.
please?
Lee Goldberg, 10 Arrowhead Road.
Thank you. Mr. Quinn, are you able to provide comments on that?
There's nothing imminent for that. It's on the long-term range, but it needs the funding in place. There's a number of projects in front of it.
And is it accurate that it is committed to being dedicated to a ball field or some sort of rec complex, or as time goes on, is there an opportunity to revisit it for using it as anything else other than that, or is there already sort of, is that baked into the plan and we're already committed to that? Using it as
Open space. It's open space, and that would be determined by the governing body if they want to change the use.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. Sorry. In terms of the SMUCA position that was discussed earlier, is that an all volunteer position? There's no compensation affiliated with that position, is there?
They receive a stipend through the utility.
So,
Do we know what the stipend? I think it's a $2,000 stipend.
Very small.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you very much.
And that's
And
paid
then
by the utility of the township.
that's provided through the utility, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Thank you. I just had a question, as with the proliferation of EV charging stations, both commercially and residentially. I don't have an EV charging station. I might have one in the future, but just curious from a township perspective, are special permits required for that? If as a resident, I want to install a EV charging station in my garage or house, do I need to get a permit for that?
Yes, you do.
You do. Thank you very much. And that's just done through the construction department?
That is correct.
Thank you. And then my last question is on resolution 3723, which is the reappointment of special counsel of Mr. Mills. Is that, could you just elaborate, is that for like still pending litigation that he's involved with that we might need his services for, or is that just to keep him on?
Correct.
It is.
It's for the same litigation he's been on for the past 3 years.
And is there any horizon on that where we would expect that litigation to hopefully conclude this year? Or is that just something that is annual, could go into perpetuity another few more years or even longer? Or is there sort of a sunset on that?
I don't want to jinx us.
Oh,
We can't
Okay.
comment on current litigation, Mr. Goldberg.
oh, so that's current litigation. Gotcha. Thank you very much. That's all I had. Thank you very much for your time tonight, and wish you all the best in the upcoming year on behalf of the work that you do on behalf of all of us. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg, and same to you with your work on the Board of Adjustment this year. Seeing no further hands raised, is there a motion to close the public portion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That leaves us to adjournment. Time is now 7:57 p.m. May I please have a motion to adjourn our regular session for the evening?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next Township Committee meeting will be held on Wednesday, February 15th, 2023 at 7 p.m., both in person and via Zoom. We will be having our closed session at 5 p.m. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Special shout out to the Minutemen members who are here with us too. Thanks for coming out. And have a good evening, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night, folks.